Well, hey, Prosperity Collabs, welcome back to another great episode. Now, today I am thrilled to bring Linda O, the visionary leader and founder of Leading Edge Real Estate, onto the show. Now, Leading Edge is one of the most prominent real estate firms in the greater Boston area. They're one of RealTrend's top 500 real estate companies in the country. I think they ranked around 165 out of independent companies in the United States. And in the state of Massachusetts, they were number 12. So she is a dynamic leader in the industry. And Linda is known for being an innovator, quite frankly. She focuses on innovation and just thinking out of the box in an industry where it's really easy to just do what's always been done. And I'll tell you what, that's not how she rose to the top. It's by doing things other people didn't think about doing, or doing things in a way that other people weren't doing. On today's episode, we're going to be getting into the state of the real estate market. We're going to be getting into the challenges that we're facing in the market today, and also the opportunities, because I know there's some changes with commission structure. But I've been saying this for a while. I think there should be some excitement right now, and we're going to get into why. So I'm very excited to get her take on that and share that with you. We're going to get her advice on how you should be navigating all of this. So it's my great pleasure to bring with you Linda O, sought after speaker, recent guest at Gathering of Eagles, RealTrend's major conference. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand it over. Linda, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I first met you. You came out as part of Broker Council to do an audit of our brokerages here in Southern California. And I have to say, you just are such an impressive person to encounter. Your knowledge of the industry, your creative thinking. I mean, it was such a wonderful experience to have you out. And so I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Well, I have bamboozled a lot of people, Chris, so watch out.
Good. Well, Linda, why don't we just jump right into it? I had some questions ahead of time, but I wanted to really quickly touch on everything that's happening in our industry right now, because I think there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of apprehension, but I also think there should be some excitement. And I think people are missing that. So I would love to get your take on this.
Every time there is a big change, there are people who embrace the opportunity and those who run from it. And all I can tell you is that those who are willing to pivot and think about real estate differently are going to be clear victors going forward. And when I say that, I don't like to be too much about winning all the time or making it a competition, but there's no doubt in my mind that the smart agents, the people who are doing things for the right reason, I think we're going to wash out a lot of people who've been self-serving, a lot of people who've been negligent, a lot of people who are lazy. This is going to get hard. And I think it's exciting that it's going to get hard because it's going to leave a big space at the top for people who are smarter about this business and willing to work hard.
Yeah, I think there is, we have a regular refining in real estate, right? We know that the market is such that every couple of years we have an adjustment and we see the number of realtors drop. I think that refining is really healthy because, like you said, there are people who come in who maybe are self-serving, maybe they're just hobbyists, right? But it definitely diminishes the professionalism in our industry. And so I think this is an opportunity to really restore that again. But you mentioned it's going to get hard. What do you mean by that? What do you think get hard? How will it be hard?
Well, I'm taking this from Brian Boero from 1000 Watt. It was the best analogy yet, so I'm going to share it here. Up until now, if you were a buyer's agent and you got someone to work with you, basically if you got them over the threshold and you got to the closing, you were going to get paid. And now we need to prove a lot of our value before we even show a house. And he compared it to Shark Tank. You're going to have a really worthy story to pitch, and you're going to need to get people willing to invest in you in that first few moments. So I think there are actually a lot of great agents who have tremendous value, but haven't learned how to articulate it, don't have really great buyer presentations. And the other thing I think is that a lot of agents have been successful doing the easy stuff. Hey, listen, you can go find houses and show houses. It's not that hard. You can become a neighborhood expert. It's not that hard. You can manage the tasks involved. That's the easy stuff. But that's not why buyers really want people. They don't want you. They can find a lot of the houses themselves. They can do all the neighborhood research they want. You probably can use ChatGPT and learn how to manage tasks. Buyers want insight. Buyers want your brain. They want to be protected. And I feel like a lot of agents have to up their game on the services they're providing and taking more time with buyers than they have in the past. Too many people go, oh, you had a home inspection. Read the report and let me know if anything bothers you. Take the time and go through that report with them. I think, they need a professional to bounce all those things off of. You're a home inspector, but you can point them in the right direction. Let them know this is normal. Let them know this is something to be very alarmed about. I would give you some other examples of things I think that we've taken for granted. A lot of people either had listings or worked with buyers on a condo that was cash. It happens a lot. People downsizing, they have cash. And when there's cash, there's no bank to protect the buyer. Mm-hmm. Nobody's doing a condo questionnaire with them and asking them, is there any litigation? Does someone own too many units? Is there enough reserve? None of that happens. Matter of fact, as listing agents, we're so excited we have a cash buyer because we have issues with the condo and we couldn't sell it otherwise.
Right.
Buyer agents are going to need to do a condo questionnaire when they have a cash buyer because you do not want to put someone in a position where they couldn't resell.
Yeah.
Or where there's issues. There are things like that I think we need to step up. Buyers are going to expect more. I think some buyers are going to want you to buy them a home warranty. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying that in addition to everything else you're getting, I think buyers are going to really want to understand, are they making a good move? I think too many buyers agents are like, if you like it and you want to buy it, I'm going to help you buy it. Instead of, listen, there are resale issues here. I know this works perfectly for you because your daycare is 3 doors down. But, and name all the dozens of issues if you come up with houses that hurt resale. But this is here. You're going to need to be willing to discuss that. I think too many agents shy away from that. And then when they still buy it, you can hold your head high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting, Linda, you mentioned the condo questionnaire. I think you just hit on something right there that the majority of agents are clueless about, right? They don't know that the bank is doing all that work on the other end. Like they just think, oh, we're going to show it, we're going to make an offer, it's going to happen. It's just magic, right? And I think that's the level of professionalism that, they're going to need and expect from buyers agents. But I think for the first time in my experience of real estate, you now have the opportunity for buyers agents to specialize in the way listings agents specialize. At least in California, we weren't using buyer broker agreements at all, right? So you were flying by the seat of your pants. But now you really have a niche for people to become excellent at this and prosper from it.
No doubt about it. So what is the value that you can bring? And I've been thinking about this a lot. And I know that we've shared our buyer presentation with your operation. So you have it. Mm-hmm. If I do say it's kind of kick-ass, you guys should tailor it, take it what you want. But we've been using buyer presentations since 2008. So we continually update them. But then we really went deep because of this NER settlement, because people are going to have to be good. Too many agents who we in our organization had the buyer presentation didn't feel like they need to actually go through it. And now I think it's fair to say it's not that you want to overwhelm the buyers, but until they see what they don't know and don't understand, why would you have any value if they think it's about finding and showing the house? Mm-hmm. If you can't unearth houses that aren't on the market, you don't have a lot of value to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not willing to do that. So I've been thinking about what value can buyer agents bring that we haven't really thought about before. And I think your analogy of how we work with sellers works beautifully here. Well, we go on a listing appointment. Isn't it our job to teach the seller how to maximize their equity? That's what we do. We go in and say, listen, we're going to do some paint. We're going to paint it this grayish. We're going to drop in some, quartz countertops. We're going to fix some light fixtures. We're going to do blah, blah, blah. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to make it sexy and we're going to stage it. And we know that if you put in $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, we can get you 60, 80, 100 plus thousand back. The return on investment is excellent. Why aren't we doing this with buyers in reverse? Why aren't we saying, listen, do you know what we tell sellers? We tell sellers you're very shallow. You only see what you see, and then you'll pay through the nose. So much more money than the money we've put into this house. Why don't we find you a house where you can build equity? Or at least, if you don't want to do any work, you know that you're paying top dollar for all these cosmetic fixes because it looks great. It looks like it's Pinterest worthy. It's Instagram worthy. People pay for that. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to start to talk to buyers and explaining how to buy smart, how to build equity. And no one's doing that because they're really excited to show them this sexy house. Well, let's show them grandma's house where the roof is new, the heating system's new. She's updated everything, but she's got really ugly wallpaper, right? And she might even have old brown shaker style cabinets that if you painted white would look amazing, and we have to put some new appliances in. Let's rip up the shag rug from 1977, and oh my goodness, look at the floors we found underneath, whatever it might be. I think we need to really bring value in reverse to buyers. And that will be a real game changer for agents who are good at that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know the house that I'm living in right now, it was exactly that home. It was grandma's home. It had the foam green carpet from 1994. And it was all that, but we could come in immediately. We could put our stamp on it. We could make it just like 1,000 times better with just a little bit of cosmetics. And why isn't everybody looking for that? Linda, I think one of the challenges right now that buyers agents feel, or the challenge that the objection I think people will come up with is we just don't have time. The market's moving too fast. There's not enough inventory. So we have to make these offers. We don't really negotiate hard on our clients because if we do negotiate hard for our clients, we'll miss it and they won't get the house and then they'll drop us. Right. So how do you respond to that?
I don't buy it.
Okay.
I don't buy it. I feel like while inventory comes up quickly, if you've taken the time during your buyer presentation to talk about how to build equity, when something comes along, you can act quickly because maybe you say, listen, I have someone, this is a great house. Let's bring my guy, my gal, whoever helps me with the sellers in, and I can get you a quote because these guys come in. We have people in our universe that can come and say, we're going to paint this, we're going to drop the countertops. They can come within $2,000 of whatever needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And you can get a handle on those numbers right away. You have to scramble, but you need great people in your back pocket. You need those vendors who are invested in your success and understand how to help you. So I think, and some buyers independently just need to understand that. Let's talk about that. Let me show you what we did in this house that I just listed. Take them to some of your listings. This is what it looked like before and after. Matter of fact, the presentation has great before and afters. You're going to need to change those because they're very New England style homes and you're out in California, but you will find that that concept works everywhere. Inventory is tight and it's not going to loosen up.
Mm-hmm. No.
Everyone is making promises. You don't run up an economy for 10 years and solve it in a couple of years. Interest rates, it might come down a little bit, but we're never going to see what we saw before. And we're going to have to really help people who do want to move, who feel locked in, because it's way to do nothing than to do something. So they need agents to guide them to figure out how to do this. The people who are locked in, who feel like I can't move, the interest rates are so high, we need to find them a house where they can build equity instantly so they can feel good about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Lydia, you mentioned your buyer's presentation a couple times. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love to kind of get an outline of that. If you kind of share, I know you've got a whole presentation and that's something we should definitely point people towards, but how do we begin this? Where do we get started as buyer's agents in getting that presentation put down and ready to roll?
Yeah. I think ours is 91 slides, which seems overwhelming. I will tell you, it takes a couple of hours to go through. If you can't invest a couple hours, or if your potential client can't give you a couple of hours to sit and learn how to be a smart buyer, then you're probably not a good match. We have agents who never, ever show a house anyway, unless they have a buyer agreement and they've gone through the presentation. That's just, or they might show one house. You've heard about the Zillow touring agreement. I think it's a little bit of a switch personally, but then we might need to have some kind of, let's just date a little bit. I get it. Or I think what I'd rather see is a full-blown buyer agreement with an escape clause. Listen, let's work. Let's go see some houses. And you can probably get out of this in 72 hours. Mm-hmm. Unless you want to buy one of these houses, then you're stuck with me that we saw. I think we need to think like that. But a good buyer presentation needs to go through all the points of how you're going to protect them, all the insights that you can give, all the data that you're going to be able to provide. It's going to have to get them thinking about things they haven't thought about. Ours has a little tutorial on how to be a good negotiator. It has a whole tutorial on how do you create a winning offer. You cannot take someone to go see a house, and if you haven't discussed it in advance, say, listen, you're going to have to waive your financing clause and drop your home inspection. You have to have discussed all those things during that buyer presentation. They need to understand the risks and rewards of all of the strategies ahead of time. So our buyer presentation goes through all of those things. People leave absolutely dazed and grateful that at the end they have someone who's discussed all these things, and at least it's going to, even if they aren't able to take it all in and understand it, the fact that you brought up a myriad different scenarios and how things might work and why it's important to have an agent, they don't understand. Why would they understand it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love that. And, I'm thinking of Chris Voss, and he talks about an accusation audit, right? And, that how important it is to go through the hard conversations ahead of time rather than just hoping they never come up, right? And I mean, that seems like real estate 101 right now, is people just try to avoid them. And you're never going to get referrals that way, right? But if you start with listen, this is everything we're going to go through, and this is how and what happens is I'm going to deal with it. This is what you can expect. And worst case scenario, this happens. The client feels an authenticity there, right? And it's so much better than I'm just going to paint a rosy picture and pray the other things don't happen. And if they do happen, I'll just stop calling you, right? Because I think that's too common.
I love this because one of the biggest mistakes that people make at the listing table and on a buyer presentation is saying, work with me and, you won't have to worry. It'll be smooth sailing. It's never smooth sailing. So let them know that there's going to be bumps, that you are here to negotiate that, solve the problem, and move us forward. That's your role. I think ours says something like, listen, I'm going to carry the stress. And if it's time for you to worry, we'll worry together. Mm-hmm. But until then, I've got it. You also said there are so many conversations we've been afraid to discuss. Mm-hmm. And I think at the listing table, I know there are agents going, I hope they don't bring up the professional fee. I don't have to discuss the professional fee. And the minute the client asks you about the professional fee, you're on your heels. You have to bring these things up ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So I know that I referenced one of the things that we could do at some point was my psychology of listing. It's one of my favorite things we talk about. But one of the questions that I say you have to ask on the phone before you ever go out there is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what do you think your house is worth? It's not uncommon for them to say, well, geez, Linda, I don't know. That's why I called you. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, if you don't know what's in their brain, before you go out there, you're dead in the water. So I used to say, listen, Chris, you've probably been poking around. You probably know what your neighbor's house sold for. I need to know what you think your house is worth, so I know how much I'm going to disappoint you. I always said that. I always said that. So I need to know how much I'm going to disappoint you. And then, by the way, I also want to let you know that at the end of the day, I'll probably give you the lowest price. And I'm going to charge you more commission than anyone else. But you're going to hire me because you're going to see how much more money I'll make for you with my strategies than anyone else. And we have the data to prove it. So that's about getting good and being super confident in your, and you can't say that unless you are super confident in your abilities and you're really good and you've got data to back it up. Our company averages 4.8% more over asking than the other top 20 companies in Massachusetts. And we can prove it. And we've had a lot of people say to us, do you guys just price things low? I'm like, no, we're the exact same sellers you do. They all want to overprice their house, but we are really good at getting them to do things they don't want to do, right? We're really good at making sure everyone has a chance to get in. We're not trying to sell it ourselves. We allow market exposure. We're not taking it off the market because we're going away for the weekend. All those translate to more money. So those are the kind of things I think that the consumer is craving. And by the way, this is the age of the consumer. Up until now, we have been a big self-promotional jerks. These in our industry, a lot of agents are all about how great they are, what awards they've won, how much money they're making. The consumer, 46% of people think we're overpaid. We have to stop discussing this. We have to stop using the term top producer, right? Mm-hmm. We are valued professionals, and we need to show and demonstrate that we do know what we're doing. And I think you've got a lot of new agents who are going to need to team with people that are good at what they do, because you just can't, let loose new agents who really don't have the insight yet. They have to be paired with good mentors, and they'll be better agents as a result.
Yeah. Now, Linda, I notice, and I love this because you're addressing something I think our industry really needs to deal with. It's we put our picture on everything, right? We are, and it is. Everyone wants to be a little celebrity, and you'll notice now, gosh, this move towards, well, you got to do more TikTok videos, you got to do more of this, and I think there's a place for that. But I don't go to anybody else's Facebook page and see as much, I don't go to a lawyer's Facebook page and see them vomit, I'm a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, I'm a lawyer all over everybody. But real estate agents, that's what we do. I noticed you're even changing language. You didn't mention commission once. You kept saying professional fee, right? And so you're already kind of repositioning this. And I'm with you 100%. Like if I had the buyer broker agreement, right? As a lawyer or an accountant, I'm not going to work with you unless we have some type of engagement letter, period, because I'm a professional. And also it protects me in case something goes wrong. It's the same thing. We've got to start positioning ourselves like professionals. And I just feel like I love how you're hitting on that. I think it's 100%. That's the direction we've got to go.
Yeah. It's long overdue. And I think instead of talking about how many houses we've sold, well, think about the engagement. When you put up I just listed this house, there's no engagement on it unless it's something really neat that everyone cares about. But that's so rare. Who's the engagement from? It's from the other agents in the community. It's not from, people out in the real world or potential clients or your sphere of influence. They don't care about your listing. It's all your colleagues going, yay, good for you, Chris. That's not engagement. Tell a story about how you saved a deal. Tell a story about this horrendous home inspection and how you found the right people to solve the problem or negotiate for your client. Tell the story about how you saved someone from foreclosure and you picked them up off the floor and you dragged them to bankruptcy court because they were going to have to sell for whatever, was owed on the house versus the hundreds of thousands of dollars you got them because you knew how to work the system to protect your client. There's just so many opportunities, but it takes a little more work. That's a little bit harder. It's way easier to say, I put this house under agreement. I sold this. First of all, if you're going to do it, use new language. Do not say just listed, like new on the scene or, We're looking for a new neighborhood. Do something different. Everyone keeps saying the same thing. And if you don't distinguish yourself with a different language, no, you're just like everybody else. Every single person who has the financial ability and is of the age of home buying or selling knows 9.4 agents. If you're doing what everyone else does, you're just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is that statistic right there. And I hear that from agents all the time. And this is kind of a nice segue to what do successful agents do? Because that's a common objection. Everyone I know knows an agent. And I always reply, you're right. They know you. And if you're not going to fight for that spot, then give up now, right? Because everybody does know an agent, but you're one of them. So be the agent, right? But Linda, you've worked with a lot of real estate agents. You've been successful as a broker, as an agent yourself. Why do some people make it and some people just can't put it together? What's the magic? What's the difference in your mind?
I've seen everybody wants to be a successful real estate agent, but I think very few people are willing to do what they have to do. A lot of people hide behind passive marketing. Oh, I sent out postcards, or I did a TikTok, they don't actually engage and talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot more effort to pick up the phone, but you don't have to be some schlocky, horrible salesperson. Hey, Chris, this is Linda Okaneski over at Leading Edge Real Estate. Want to know, do you need to buy or sell today? Nobody cares. Chris, how are you? Tell me what's with your family. I saw on Facebook your dog died. I'm so sorry. That's, whatever it might be, just engage. And don't expect anything from these conversations. If you ask about them, they'll ask about you, right? Mm-hmm. And at some point, if real estate comes up, just say, listen, it would be the world to me if you know someone who's looking for good insight, not for help, not someone to listen to us, who's looking for good insight, who wants to be really smart when they buy or sell. If you would keep me in mind, I'd appreciate it. That's it. Mm-hmm. And you have conversations all the time, but people have events, get in front of people. People don't do, we sat back and we're hoping that we can buy leads, that we can, work with relocation. They want magic. They want that. There's no magic. Now, in regards to lead generation, there's a million ways to do lead generation. And the one that works the best is the one you're willing to do. Right? That's it. I have agents who do very well on social media, but they have to go up and talk to people who engage on it. They don't just rely on a little conversation. I have people who are big on the Popeyes. I have people who are big on client events all the time. They're always having dinner parties and throwing client events and doing bourbon tastings and doing flower arranging. If your thing is events and you keep gathering people up, you will get people. If your thing is, on every Tuesday and Wednesday, I spend 3 hours and I just call everyone in my sphere, every past client, every neighbor, my kids' teachers, everybody you have any contact information with. And I just talk to people. That's but it's consistent, and they don't expect to get a listing when they do it. They don't expect to get, a buyer. They just stay in touch with people. They might follow up with a note. That works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've said this for years that we just have to do what you do naturally, right? We're in a relationship with about 20 people just naturally, right? Well, to be successful in this, you've got to be in a relationship at scale. And so you just take what you do naturally and you do it at scale. And that's why leveraging a CRM or a contact system or events or whatever, it allows you to be natural at scale, to be the kind of friend that you admire, right? The person who remembers everybody's birthday, all those things. Those people cheat. They write it down. They've got notes, right? And so if you want to be like them, cheat. Use your CRM, but have a system for it. And that's the difference. I think that's a huge difference maker. I love what you said about the best lead gen program is the one that you will do, and find that, right?
Yeah.
So how do you help people find it?
I think newer agents do a lot of experimentation. I've seen agents who should have no business cold calling. They will do cold calling. They hate it. They're not consistent with it. It doesn't work. And then they find another way. I think open houses are a lost art. I feel like getting out, everyone who walks into an open house has an interest in buying or selling a house. And everyone who walks in always says well, I'm working with Chris. Well, they're really not. They're not under agreement with Chris, right?
Right.
So first of all, they're not even asking the right questions. Like, are you under agreement with an agent? Do you have a contract with an agent? And that's a different question than, are you working with someone? Everything is nuanced. When someone walks in and they are working with an agent, well, have you listed your house yet? No. Would you like a second opinion? Would you like to know how I get my sales to list price to average is higher than everyone else in the market? And you have to work on building that, right? Do you need help on preparing it so you can maximize your equity? I'd be glad to give you need to get in the door. And I think people, I called everyone after the open house and no one got back to me. Yeah, if you're not calling them 10 or 12 times, because there's a gutter company around me, and they call me every month. But when I answer the phone? When I want my gutters cleaned. I don't answer it the other 11 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's we have to be prepared for the reflexive no, right? And because I've never been to Home Depot and had them ask me for help where I said yes. I just I always need help. Like, I desperately need help, but I always say no, right? It's the reflexive no. And the Home Depot guy is never going to follow up and say, but are you sure, sir? Because you look like you're looking for, as real estate agents, we've got to be better at that. And so you mentioned, I'm working with another agent. Well, that's a reflexive no. It's not real, right? And so what strategies, so you mentioned a couple, like what are the strategies to get past that reflexive no at an open house or door knocking or, because you encounter it 1,000 different ways.
So I think you ask questions. You don't start selling yourself. I think too many want to tell people how awesome they are and nobody cares. The only way to prove you're awesome is to get inside their head. Well, tell me in your home search, have you seen things you've liked? All the questions you should be asking. Have you talked to a lender? What appeals to you most? What's the most important thing about a house that you want to buy? What is your absolute must have? What are the things that you'd like to have you're not sure you can afford to get? What communities? Talk to me about your commute. Talk to me about your lifestyle. Do you have a dog? Do you need to be near a dog park? Do you like yoga? Do you, want a gym nearby? No one stops to ask those personal questions. And when people feel seen and heard and like, geez, my other agents just want to know how many bedrooms and baths I wanted. And you're asking me, what's my commute going to be like? Do you have to commute during rush hour or can you commute off rush hour? What kind of outside space do you want? Do you need a fireplace? Do you need a patio? How much do you entertain? I think if you just start asking questions like that, you get people involved and you stand out. Well, don't take the time to do it.
Right. Oh, no, you're absolutely right. And it's such a duh because when we have an authentic connection, right, you go, oh, that person really gets me. Oh, I really like them, right? And why do we work with people? We work with people because we really like them, because we feel like they get us in a level that the other person didn't, right? And so that's what trust is, right? And you cannot have trust without asking questions, right? There's just no way.
That's how you show you care. Take the time. But also, can I add a little thing to that?
Please.
At open houses, so I killed at open houses. That was my main thing. That's where I was good. But when I asked those questions, what crazy thing I did? I always had I don't go anywhere without a notepad and a pen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, talk sometimes without a pen in my hand.
Uh-huh.
I took notes. It is an incredible experience if you're talking with someone and they care enough to write it down.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, you need that information when you call them back because you can't remember, all the people you talked to that day, what was important. Right. Heck, bring a notebook, bring your legal pad, bring whatever you have. But so my desk, I don't go anywhere. I just say, here's one of my notebooks I'm working on. I have these different notes that says, and here's another one. I don't go anywhere without taking notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think how valued you feel if someone does. And I'll share a funny story. My kids are older. when my kids were little, I have a sister who also had the same age little kids. And when the kids came to her, you have a bunch of kids. You have 6 kids. How many kids do you have?
I have 6 kids. Correct. Yeah. Good memory. I mean, that's phenomenal. Yeah.
So, you remember when they'd come to you and say, can I have a popsicle? Can I go outside? Can I have a popsicle? And you keep saying, no, 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 no. Mm-hmm. My sister, she said, you know what? I know you, let me write that down. You want a popsicle. I just want to let you know, I noted that. And it would kind of calm the kids down. Like, Mom wrote that down. And think about what that does for a client. So those are tiny little things that demonstrate things. By the way, I think you really need to. I once was asked by an agent to come out on a listing with them. This is maybe 15, 20 years ago. And when I did, I was so appalled because the seller was telling them so many things about the house, but they weren't writing them down. I was having an anxiety attack. Mm-hmm. I was like, you're not going to remember all this. And she's thinking, you're not going to remember all this. Mm-hmm. So those things, I think, make a big, big difference.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you have a memory that you can pick it all up. You have to indicate to the person that what they're saying is important, right? And the writing it down lets them know, I hear you. This is important. I can tell it's important to you, so I'm going to make it important to me. Yeah, I mean, that's so, it makes so much sense. I think I just got a tremendous life hack in the take notes on what my kids are asking me for, because if that can, I'm going to text my wife as soon as I'm done to say, start taking notes, honey. Yeah.
Maybe it'll only work for a week, but it might have some effect. I'd love you to talk about the NAR settlement a little bit. And,
yes, please. Yeah.
And I have kind of a vision for what's going to happen, and I could be all wet. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, please. I'd love to hear that. So
I'm not as familiar. You are a realtor-owned MLS, Chris? So you're going to...
No, we are it's CRMLS. It's a massive, one of the largest MLSs. Yeah. So
is your MLS going to have concessions listed or not?
At this point, we believe we will have concessions listed. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And so now it will be undesignated concessions on the MLS, right? But then apparently on your private website, you'll be allowed to say concession towards blank, but you cannot say that on the MLS. So where it stands now. Yeah.
Okay. In Boston, looks like we're going to be able to put it in, but if we do, we're going to create a lot of liability for ourselves because it's against the NAR settlement. So I don't think we're going to. But anyway,
right.
I think it might be beneficial while I'm here if we could kind of discuss how we explain this to sellers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And how we explain this to buyers. And I know it kind of goes through a couple things. So the way we've come at talking to sellers is, it has to be clear. This is an option. You are under no obligation in any way to offer a concession, right? Easy, easy, easy. So as long as they know that. However, I'm here and I've got strategies to help you make the most money when you sell. Among them are, we're going to paint, we're going to lift the carpet up, we might stage. And I can tell you that if you solve the buyer's problem on how to pay his agent, you will widen your pool of potential buyers and you will probably make more money. Not to mention, we don't know this, but most buyers are not going to pay out of pocket. They're going to be writing it in anyway.
Yeah.
So that language has really worked for us, that if you solve the buyer's problem on how to pay their agent, expand your Bible, more exposure drives more demand. More demand will drive your price.
Yeah. I think I love the language on it. You're so good with the language. I've been saying essentially, the buyer, this allows the buyer to finance it. So they get to so now they can afford more because they can finance that payment, right? But you're solving their problem because that's really what it is. They're going to have to pay their agent one way or the other. And either you let them finance that in their 30-year mortgage, or they got paid out of pocket. And if they pay out of pocket, they've got less money to put down, which means they have less buying power. So which one? But yours is much simpler to understand. Mine gets a little complicated in the weeds.
Well, it's true though. I do believe this is going to be a zero-sum game. if they have to come up with money to pay their agent, they're calculating that in the price of their house. The seller's not going to get it.
Right.
There is how I've looked at it. And when talking with buyers, we're kind of doing the same thing. But for the most part, we're recommending to all of our agents, starting today, matter of fact, we started this in January, let's start writing in that we already have buyer agreements, that even though there is a concession that might even match what I'm under agreement for, let's write it in every offer. Let's get in the swing of things. Let's make it a routine and normal for our buyers to say that they're requesting the commission be paid out of the proceeds of the sale in every offer now.
Yeah, right. Because why would you wait?
Right.
Yeah. Now, how are you seeing that? What's your experience with how listing agents are receiving that? Is there any pushback, or is there any confusion? Or are you having to educate the listing agent?
Both. Some people just get it. They're smart. They see it. We're really clear. Listen, we're not asking for any more that's already here. We're just memorializing that that's what we're going to get, giving the settlement. They get it. Some people totally freak out. They think we're double dipping. We're trying to get twice, but that's inevitable. You have a lot of people who aren't that smart in the business. Just sorry, but or you talk to. You're going to have to negotiate it and work with the people you're dealing with and communicate the best way you can. But it is, I would say, 90% of the time, it's flawless and very easy. And you've got 10% of the people that you need to talk to, and half of them get it fast, and the other half will never get anything, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. The fear pushback I get right now from buyers agents is, what if we get there and then we can't get it negotiated in? What do we do then? What happens? We have this agreement, and my buyer won't sign it because they're worried the seller won't pay it, and we go around in circles on this. How are you guys dealing with that?
So my own vision of this is that I think this is going to be the norm, that 98.9% of all buyers agents will be paid through the transaction, maybe 90 plus. That's going to be the total norm. But everyone is fearful because it's new. But I feel like they've been paid out of the transaction all along. Nothing has changed. We're telling our buyers, listen, we're asking the sellers to pay the commission with the money you are bringing to the transaction. You are funding this transaction. And so when we present it to the seller, the agent is like, this offer is contingent on you accepting this. Otherwise, the offer wouldn't be this high.
Right. And all of your comps already include this.
Right.
So you're not giving any money away. We're not taking anything. This, in effect, is what's always happened. It's just, we were calling it the seller was giving back, but really you're just financing the commission. That's all that's going on. Right. Yeah. And I think it's a pretty straightforward thing. Are you writing any sort of side? I mean, I guess, again, it's that the buyer says, well, what happens if we can't get it included? Right. And then at that point, the buyer's agent panics, and then they go, oh, well, we'll do it for 2, or we'll do it for 1.5. Right. What do you say to a buyer when they say, well, what happens if the seller won't pay your 2.5?
Well, first of all, you have a buyer. You have a buyer. I'm not going to discuss commission, but you have a buyer agreement. And we've explained to the vets, every offer we make, we're going to ask for this. And if at first the seller won't accept it, what does it should do? They say, what number would it take to accept it? Right. Negotiate it.
Right.
It isn't there. Well, what would it take?
Right.
It's going to be old-fashioned negotiation.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone's going to be in the same boat. I believe everyone's going to be writing it in. So all the offers the seller gets are all going to be saying something. Now, they might be different numbers. This is what agents are scared about. And this is what the Department of Justice wanted to have happen. And this is what will suppress commissions, is that we're afraid to ask for too much because we don't want to, disadvantage our buyer. And you're asking for X% more than most other buyers. Your buyer's going to have to pay X% more. But if you're really good and you're saving them and you're showing them how to buy a house and build equity, and they feel like you've given them great, amazing insight, they won't begrudge you. But you have to have earned it. You have to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this goes back to the, ask them to take out their phone. My chances are they've got the nicest Apple or the nicest Samsung. They didn't go buy the cheapest phone they could. They bought the most value that they could get, right? What they perceive to be the greatest value. And as a real estate agent, you can position yourself as the cheapest, or you can position yourself as the greatest value. And the greatest value isn't the least expensive. More often than not, it's one of the more expensive, but you're getting so much more for what you're paying. We've got to think of ourselves that way.
So we need to be very cognizant that the settlement language is very clear that you cannot accept more than you're under agreement for. Now,
absolutely,
can you do addendum? You can do addendums and things like that, but if you shortchange yourself in the beginning, it's going to be hard to get extra if they're offering it. But I think what's going to happen with that, if we just had an agent who the seller was offering, let's just say, a huge incentive. It was a big fancy pants condo in Boston. They sold out. This one was sitting on the market, and he was willing to pay like the kind of commission you never see. Mm-hmm. My agent was like, my people want to buy it. I don't even deserve that much money. I can't take it. So he went back to the buyer and said, they have this incentive. Why don't we split it?
Mm-hmm.
And the buyer was like, great. So, my agent split it, and it turned out to be fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah.
For everybody. So I think you might wind up negotiating some of that extra. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen to buyers' commissions? I know I've heard speculation on this, that they'll be depressed, that they'll go up, that they'll go around. You think we'll continue just as it has been, or do you think that
there'll be suppression? Mostly because there are too many agents who don't have the confidence in themselves, or the weak agents who simply will discount themselves in order to get business because they don't even understand their own value. They can't.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the thing. The buyer's going to say, well, why should I work with Chris? He's more expensive than Linda. But until they say, sure, you can go work with a discount agent, but they're not going to do this, this, and this for you. So you're going to need to have that in your back pocket. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, we've had discount brokers forever, right? There was Help You Sell, and they did great until the market crashed, and then they disappeared. We've had online brokers who've been doing discounted buyers forever, right? And they've never gained the traction. I think most people, when they're doing a transaction the size of a home, there's just something in the back of your mind that says, I don't want the budget brand lowest denominator. I want to make sure my assets are being taken care of. And so it really behooves a professional.
So, Chris, I think the day of, I'm going to work with my uncle's brother's sister, because she has a license, are over.
Mm-hmm.
Are going to be much more discriminating about who they hire, and they're going to want good agents. So although I think professional fees are going to come down on the buyer side, I actually think professional fees on the listing side are going to go up. And let me tell you why.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
We are building into our contracts our listing service fee and the fee we're going to get it for unrepresented buyers, because we think there'll be a lot more unrepresented buyers. People who will not sign a contract. They're going to go to open houses. They're going to shop themselves. They're going to go direct. And those people, you're not going to sign under a buyer's agreement because they don't want to sign one. And if they go directly to you and you haven't negotiated a fee for doing all the work that has to be done, you're not going to get paid. So I think listing fees, and here's the other thing though, you're not always going to do it. I think a lot of these unrepresented buyers are going to cause listing agents a lot more work. For a lot of them, they're not going to get the house because they don't have representation of people to guide them on how to do it. So I see a lot of people thinking about, I'm going to charge an extra, whatever, as a listing agent, because there's going to be a lot more work as a listing agent. You're going to be working with a lot of people who are unrepresented, have to show them the house, write up all their offers, do whatever needs to be done. And then none of them are even going to buy the house, but you have to do that to represent your seller in case one of them really comes through. And so I think there's going to be a lot more work on listing agents. So in addition, I think you're going to wipe out a huge majority of agents who just don't want to do this extra work because it did get hard. And that's going to leave more for the good agents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what you're doing is something that most listing agents need to be doing, but aren't. It's that, this is a buyer's agent thing. They're not really thinking about how this affects them on the list side at all. And I think they're going to get caught just as flat-footed, because if they start listing properties for, whatever fee, and then they haven't prepped their sellers on someone's going to come in and ask, or what to do on an unrepresented buyer, or all of that, right? It's going to be another hard conversation that they should have had up front, but they didn't. It's back to what we were talking about earlier, right? And, I think that's the piece of this that I think most pundits are missing, is this is not a buyer representation thing. This is the entire real estate industry, from buyers to sellers to the way we think about agency. I mean, it's just across the board. This changes everything. And I think, like I said in the beginning, I think there's something to be excited about, because anytime you have a major disruption, I mean, this is the $1 billion moment we've waited our whole lives for, if you're going to be nimble and quick and ready to create that new model. Yeah.
And we love your coverage, by the way. Marion and Dave are just beloved to us. We will share anything we're doing because they are very generous in sharing back with us. So anything we can do, I'm in.
Well, I love it. I love that, this is what I think is the best part of the industry, is that, the people on the bottom are busy competing. The people on the top are busy collaborating. And Linda, you're just such a tremendous example of that. So thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate the conversation. I think there's just so much for our listeners to get out of this. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, but I don't know if Miriam has told you that I run a Linda O boot camp, and I was like, I'll do something for your office if you'll come out here. And I think she might have volunteered you, Chris.
Well, I would love to come out. I would be, it would make my day. So anytime, I would love to do that. So yes, let's do a transcontinental swap. I'm ready. So awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, Linda, if people want to find you online, where do they do that?
Online, leadingedgeagents.com is our company website. Probably get more out of lindaobootcamp.com. I do run a boot camp every January. It's 5 classes. It's all online. It's live streamed, and it's fun. And I have great speakers. And I challenge people to think differently about their business. And it's not just lead generation. It's new ideas. It's different kinds of concepts. You can integrate different strategies. And it's got kind of a holistic health thing underlying it. We have to take care of each other and take care of ourselves.
Very cool. Well, guys, check out that Linda O Bootcamp. And Linda, thanks for coming on Prosperity Collabs. We will see you guys next time. Thank you, Linda.